that we just, learn about. But what I want to point out is that because I'm standing here and I can see the whole room, and it's something that never fails, but just this little 3 minutes has completely changed the energy in the room. And I'm not trying to say that, the energy was bad, but it's just that there's something really powerful in just creating a little bit of space to really listen and hear about not only the superpowers of others, but also to have a chance to, share about some of our own superpowers. So it's a very simple practice, and if 3 minutes can have this kind of impact, imagine inside of your organization if you create a context where there's more space, for elements like this. I think it's something that can be a very powerful practice. I would even argue, I'm sure that some of you are actually serving, clients or customers, or you're in some sort of business relationship, and I'm not sure if we're always clear, not only what are the superpowers of inside of us, inside of our colleagues, but also what are the superpowers of the people that we're actually serving, and what would happen if we would become a little bit more intentional about what those superpowers are. I really, for example, for me, in my day job, I create experiences. I bring people to travel in some ways, to live through a journey. So I love to kind of combine this idea that I'm actually not creating for customers. I'm not creating for clients. I'm actually creating for a mix of travelers and guests. People that I'm hosting. In a way, funny enough, I often consider that I'm not even working in the entertainment business, but I'm actually working in the hospitality business. I'm trying to create extraordinary experiences for people by welcoming them into a space. So I think this notion of superpower is a simple one, but as I said, I think you don't need to be a superhero to have superpowers. You don't need to be, you don't need to be a superhero to have a genius, that connects with the work that you do. But it's all good. It's all easy to be here on the stage and to say that all is beautiful and amazing, and I have all the answers. Just follow me. But I'm not here for that. I'm not here to tell you that I have all the answers. And in fact, I didn't always have creative courage. Not at all. And I thought that today it was important to spend a little bit of time and to tell you about the fact that I didn't always have creative courage. I didn't always manage to lead with creative courage. And in some ways, it brings me back to a couple of insights that I think could be relevant to the work that you do of transformation. I had this incredible trip. I told you I was sent around the world to find talents for Circo, and at some point I was actually sent to North Korea. And once again, I'm not showing you this image because I'm a narcissist, but just to prove that it's true, I was indeed in North Korea. And in North Korea, I spent about 10 days there. And there was this very particular moment. I remember it was a Wednesday, and I was at the top of this restaurant called the Circo Hotel Restaurant. And it's actually two revolving, restaurants. And it's actually I believe at the time it was, you only had 3 hotels in the entire country that were authorized to welcome, foreigners. And they were accepting less than, 2,800 people in the country. So I happened to be, by an incredible amount of circumstances, one of those persons who ended up being in the country. And the short story of that is that I had started another creative practice, which is something also very simple. Every year, I try to have one single, let's say I have 3, 4 objectives. I try to have at least one objective that I call impossible beautiful. One objective, And that year, my impossible beautiful objective was just to make a connection with North Korea for a very simple reason. You might not know if you don't know much about the circus world, but the best trapeze acts in the world are developed in North Korea. So my idea, romantic idea, was, well, what if I were to create a connection that maybe in 5, 7, 10 years, when things improve there, would create a connection for someone from Cirque du Soleil to go to North Korea and to create this kind of ping-pong diplomacy, this kind of connection of, culture bringing peace in the world. So that was that kind of a crazy idea, that I had. But I thought, if I can just make this initial connection, that would be a wonderful thing. But what happened is that, and that's often what happens when you set beautiful, impossible dream, typically what happened is that you go beyond those dreams, and 9 months later, I was actually in North Korea. And that Wednesday, I was in that restaurant. And at some point, I had an experience that I'd never had before, that I never had after. I had a major panic attack in the restaurant. And things started to turn black and white. And I started to become convinced that I could never leave North Korea. That I would do an unwittingly mistake, and I would get stuck in North Korea. I had to stay discreet somehow and find a way to go to the restroom, put some water on me. But it took me some weeks. Eventually, indeed, I am here today, so I was not stuck in North Korea, of course. But it gave me this precious insight that continues to influence my vision of leadership and my vision of creativity as well. I think, what I felt when I was in North Korea was a sense of restriction, a sense of the status quo taking all the space, a sense of an impossibility to transform things. It was not something that was said, it was just something in the air that was feeling. And later on, I started to put some words on it, and to me, what it came to me and what the cause of that panic attack was at the time was what I call the war on imagination. And it's interesting because I think it would be very easy to say, well, that's it, the war on imagination in North Korea. Yeah, they have that problem, right? They have that problem. But what was really interesting is that I started to realize that the reason why I was touched so much, affected so much, it's because that war on imagination, that feeling that I had in North Korea, was very familiar. It reminded me a lot of the relationship that I had with my own father. A sense of restriction, a sense of interdiction, a sense of forbidden, a sense of, when I think about the relationship I had with my dad, it was a relationship that was profoundly confrontational, combustible. It was a really painful relationship. And I think that one of the elements that was the most fundamental to our relationship, my dad and I, and it's not because he was a bad person, because actually it came from very good intention. But my dad really wanted me to fit in. He didn't want me to stand out, because standing out meant getting in trouble. And that's the last thing that he wanted from me. So he made sure that I fit in, right? And This confrontation, constant conflictual relationship took its most acute expression in this idea that I wanted to dance. I wanted to move my body. I wanted to have this relationship with music. And my father didn't want that. So he did everything he could to forbid that connection with dance. Everything he could.